Chosen one, this message didn't appear in your life by accident. There's a quiet transformation happening within you, and today we need to talk about it. Sometimes a message appears at the exact moment your heart is ready to receive it. You may have been feeling a quiet inner pull lately, a sense that something within you is shifting, even if you can't fully explain it yet. Moments like this often arrive when you've been reflecting more deeply on your path, your purpose, and the direction your life is gently moving toward. If this message reached you today, it may simply be a small pause in your day, inviting you to listen to what your inner voice has been trying to say all along. Reacting less doesn't mean you care less. Sometimes it simply means you understand more. There was a time when every word felt like it carried weight. Every look, every tone, every small shift in someone's energy seemed like something you had to respond to. You felt responsible for keeping peace, for explaining yourself, for making sure nothing about you was misunderstood. And when someone misread your intentions, it stayed with you. You would replay conversations in your mind long after they ended, wondering if you should have said something differently, wondering if you should have defended yourself more clearly. But something inside you has been changing, not in a loud way, not in a way that others immediately notice. It's quieter than that. You're beginning to realize that responding to everything is not the same as living with awareness. And protecting your peace sometimes means allowing things to pass through your life without gripping them so tightly. You used to take everything personally. If someone was distant, you assumed you had done something wrong. If someone misunderstood you, you felt the need to correct the story immediately. If someone doubted you, you felt this deep urge to prove who you really were. But slowly, that urgency has been fading. Not because you stopped caring, but because you started seeing more clearly. You started noticing how much energy it takes to constantly defend your heart in a world that often misunderstands quiet strength. And you began to see that not every perception needs to be corrected. Some people will misunderstand you no matter how carefully you explain yourself. Some people will hold on to the version of you that exists in their mind, even if it has nothing to do with who you actually are. And for a long time that felt painful. Because you wanted to be seen accurately. You wanted people to understand your intentions, your sincerity, the way you try to move through life with honesty. But maturity brings a very gentle realization. Being understood by everyone is not a requirement for living truthfully. Sometimes growth looks like silence. Sometimes wisdom looks like letting people believe what they need to believe. And that doesn't mean you're shrinking. It means something inside you has become steadier. You're learning the difference between reacting and responding. Reacting comes from the nervous system trying to protect itself. It's immediate, it's emotional, it often pulls you into situations that drain your spirit. Responding is different. Responding comes from a place inside you that pauses first, a place that asks quietly, is this worth my energy? And more often than before, the answer is simple, no. Not because you're indifferent, but because you're finally recognizing the value of your inner stability. There was a time when you felt like you had to correct every misunderstanding about you. Now you're realizing something deeper. People who are meant to understand you will feel it without endless explanations. They'll notice the consistency in your actions. They'll sense the sincerity in your presence. They won't require you to defend your character every time someone questions it. And the people who constantly demand explanations often aren't truly listening anyway. So something inside you has softened. You no longer rush to prove your goodness. You no longer chase clarity with people who are committed to confusion. And at first that shift felt strange, because you were so used to being emotionally involved in everything around you. You carried the emotional weight of rooms, conversations, relationships. You tried to keep balance everywhere, but now you're learning a quieter strength. You're discovering that peace is not something you earn by fixing every misunderstanding. Peace comes when you stop carrying what was never yours to hold. When someone reacts strongly now, you notice the difference inside yourself. You still feel it, but you don't collapse into it. You observe, you breathe, you allow space before deciding how much of yourself to offer that moment. And sometimes the most mature response is simply calm presence, not defending. not arguing, not explaining, just remaining steady in who you are. This kind of growth often goes unnoticed by the outside world. People may even assume you've changed in ways they don't understand. Some might say you've become distant. Others might feel confused by the fact that you no longer engage the way you used to. But what they're really witnessing is your nervous system learning safety. Your spirit learning that it doesn't have to prove itself in every conversation. Your mind learning that not every reaction deserves a response. This is quiet resilience. It's the kind of strength that forms slowly through experience. Through moments where you realize that explaining yourself again and again only left you more exhausted, not more understood. So now you move differently, more measured, more observant. You still care deeply, but you're no longer handing your emotional center to every passing opinion. And that's a powerful shift. Because when your inner world becomes stable, something remarkable happens. You begin to see people more clearly. You see where their reactions come from, their fears, their assumptions, their unhealed places. And instead of absorbing it all, you simply recognize it. Not with judgment, just with understanding. You realize that many people are reacting to their own inner storms, not to who you truly are. And once you see that, something inside you relaxes. You stop trying to fix every narrative. You stop trying to be perfectly understood. You allow your presence to speak quietly for itself. And in that quiet, your strength becomes unmistakable, not because you are trying to appear strong, not because you are forcing yourself to stay composed, but because something inside you has settled. There was a time when silence felt uncomfortable, when you believed that if you didn't speak up immediately, people would assume the worst about you, when every misunderstanding felt like something urgent that had to be corrected. But now, silence feels different. It feels like space. Space to observe. Space to breathe. Space to choose how much of yourself you want to give to any moment. You don't feel the need to defend yourself the same way anymore. And that shift didn't happen overnight. It came from many small realizations, quiet moments where you noticed how much of your energy used to go toward managing other people's perceptions. You used to think that if you could just explain yourself clearly enough, people would finally understand. But life has a gentle way of teaching deeper truths. Understanding cannot be forced, and the people who are ready to see you will see you without you having to prove anything. So now you move with a different kind of awareness. When someone misunderstands you, your first instinct is no longer panic. Instead, there's a pause. You allow the moment to breathe. You notice your emotions, but you don't immediately act from them. And within that pause, something very powerful begins to grow: clarity. Because when you're not reacting instantly, you start to see the situation more clearly. You can feel the difference between something that truly deserves your attention and something that simply wants to pull you into unnecessary noise. And slowly you started choosing peace more often. Not the kind of peace that comes from avoiding life, but the kind that comes from understanding your own emotional boundaries. You're realizing that you don't need to carry every misunderstanding. You don't need to absorb every projection. You don't need to become smaller just to make others comfortable with who you are. And that realization brings a quiet kind of freedom. You still listen, you still care, you still move through the world with empathy. But you no longer abandon yourself in the process. There's a calmness that has started to form inside you. A calmness that wasn't there before. It shows up in small ways. In the way you let certain comments pass without reacting. In the way you don't rush to fill every silence with explanations. In the way you trust that the people who truly see you don't require constant reassurance. This calmness isn't coldness. It's emotional maturity. It's the understanding that your peace is something sacred, something that deserves protection, not constant negotiation. And the interesting thing is, when you stop trying so hard to manage how people see you, your presence actually becomes clearer. People start noticing your steadiness, not because you are louder, but because you are more grounded. You're no longer pulled in every direction by other people's reactions. You're not constantly adjusting yourself to match someone else's expectations. Instead, you're learning to remain anchored within yourself. That's a very quiet kind of power. And sometimes the people around you may not fully understand it. They might wonder why you don't react the way you used to, why you don't argue the same way, why certain things that once affected you deeply now seem to move past you without creating the same storm. But what they're seeing is not distance, it's stability. You're no longer living from a place where every external reaction determines your internal state. Your center is beginning to come from somewhere deeper, somewhere quieter, somewhere that doesn't need constant validation to remain steady. And once that stability begins forming inside you, something else changes too. You stop measuring your worth through other people's interpretations. You realize that someone misunderstanding you does not erase your sincerity. Someone doubting you does not erase your integrity. Someone projecting their fears onto you does not change the truth of your heart. So instead of fighting every perception, you simply continue being who you are. Calmly, consistently, without the need to perform your goodness for anyone's approval. And in that calm consistency, something very beautiful begins to happen. Your energy becomes peaceful to be around. Not because you are trying to impress anyone, but because people can feel when someone is no longer at war with every moment. They can feel the steadiness. They can feel the quiet patience that comes from someone who has learned how to pause before reacting, someone who understands that emotional storms don't always need to be answered with more storms. And maybe the most meaningful part of this transformation is something very simple. You are finally learning how to let things pass. Not everything needs to be carried. Not every comment needs to be held onto. Not every misunderstanding needs to be resolved. Some things are simply meant to move through your life like passing weather. And when you stop chasing every cloud across the sky, you begin to notice the calm that was always there behind it. A calm that doesn't depend on who understands you. A calm that doesn't disappear when someone questions you. A calm that comes from knowing quietly and deeply who you are becoming, even in moments when the world around you doesn't fully see it yet. If this message is reaching you at the right moment, perhaps your soul already understands why. If you feel guided to stay connected with these reflections, you're gently welcome to subscribe to Born into Light and offer a quiet like to support the message. And if something here resonates with your heart, you can share it below by commenting, "I hear this." And that kind of knowing changes the way you move through life. You're no longer searching outside yourself for constant confirmation. There is less urgency in the way you approach conversations, less tension in the way you hold relationships. You still care deeply, but the way you carry that care has become softer. It's no longer heavy. You're beginning to understand that true strength is not loud. It doesn't rush into every conflict. It doesn't feel the need to correct every assumption about you. True strength is the ability to remain steady when the world around you becomes emotional. You started noticing how many situations are fueled by reaction. One person reacts, then another reacts to that reaction, and suddenly the entire moment becomes louder than it needed to be. But when you choose to pause, the pattern changes. Not always for everyone else. But for you, you allow space where there used to be urgency. You allow silence where there used to be explanation. And within that space, your nervous system learns something new. That you are safe even when you don't rush to defend yourself. That you are still whole even when someone misunderstands you. That your peace does not need permission from the outside world. This realization doesn't make you disconnected from people. In many ways, it makes you more compassionate. Because when you're not constantly defending yourself, you start to see the emotions of others with more clarity. You notice when someone is reacting from pain. You notice when someone's words come from fear rather than truth. And instead of absorbing all of it, you simply recognize it. There's a quiet understanding that forms. You begin to realize that not everything directed toward you is actually about you. Some people speak from old wounds. Some people react from insecurities they haven't faced yet. Some people misunderstand what calmness looks like because they are used to chaos. And when you see that clearly, your heart becomes lighter. You stop carrying responsibility for emotions that were never yours. You stop believing that every conflict must be resolved by your explanation. Instead, you offer what you can offer honestly, and then you allow the moment to settle where it will. This is where emotional regulation becomes something deeper than just staying calm. It becomes trust. Trust that you don't need to fight every battle to maintain your integrity. Trust that the people who are meant to understand you will feel the sincerity in your actions over time. Trust that your inner stability matters more than momentary approval. You may still have moments where the old instinct appears, moments where a misunderstanding touches something sensitive inside you, moments where a part of you still wants to explain everything perfectly so no one sees you incorrectly. But now, even in those moments, you pause, you breathe, and you gently remind yourself that you don't have to carry every story someone creates about you. Your life is not defined by every passing opinion. Your character is not shaped by every reaction someone has in a single moment. What truly defines you is the way you continue showing up with steadiness, even when the world becomes noisy. And the more you practice this quiet steadiness, the more natural it becomes. Your energy begins to settle into something grounded. You feel less pulled into unnecessary tension, less drained by the emotional storms of others, less pressured to constantly prove your intentions. Instead, you move with a quiet clarity. You know what matters to you. You know the kind of person you are trying to become. And that inner direction becomes more important than managing every external perception. There's a certain peace that begins to grow when you reach this point. A peace that doesn't need attention. A peace that doesn't demand recognition. Just a simple, steady feeling that you are no longer fighting every moment of life. You're allowing life to move while you remain centered within yourself. And when you live this way, something very subtle begins to happen. Your presence itself becomes calming. Not because you are trying to guide anyone, not because you are trying to teach anyone, but because people can feel when someone is no longer constantly reacting. They can feel the difference between someone who is emotionally scattered and someone who has learned how to return to their center. And maybe the most meaningful part of all of this is something very quiet. You are no longer afraid of being misunderstood. Of course, you still value connection. Of course, you still appreciate being seen clearly by those who care about you. But you're no longer shaping your entire emotional world around the need to control how others perceive you. You've started to accept a simple truth. Some people will understand you deeply. Some people will misunderstand you completely. And most people will only see small pieces of who you are. And that's okay, because the most important relationship you are building now is the one you have with your own inner stability. The quiet place inside you that remains steady even when the outside world becomes uncertain. The place where you can pause, breathe, and simply exist without feeling the need to explain your heart to everyone around you. And the more you rest in that place, the more natural it becomes to let certain things pass without carrying them any further. Until one day you realize something that once felt impossible. You can care deeply about the world and still remain completely at peace within yourself. For a long time, you believed those two things could not exist together. You thought that caring deeply meant you had to feel everything intensely. That if you truly had a good heart, you would react strongly to every misunderstanding, every harsh word, every moment where someone questioned who you were. It felt like staying calm meant you were becoming distant. But now you're beginning to understand something much quieter. Peace is not the absence of care. Peace is what happens when your care is no longer tangled with fear. Fear of being misunderstood. Fear of being judged unfairly. Fear of losing connection if you don't explain yourself enough. When those fears begin to soften, your heart doesn't close. It simply becomes steadier. You still listen carefully when people speak. You still feel empathy when someone is struggling. But you're no longer absorbing every emotion around you as if it belongs inside your body. You're learning to let feelings pass through you without becoming overwhelmed by them. That's not detachment. That's emotional balance. And it takes time to reach this place. Because most of your life you were taught, directly or indirectly, that being a good person meant constantly adjusting yourself for the comfort of others. You learned to explain more, to reassure more, to prove your intentions again and again. But somewhere along the way, you started noticing something important. No matter how clearly you explained yourself, there would always be moments where someone still misunderstood. Not because you failed to communicate, but because every person sees the world through the lens of their own experiences. And once you realize that, something shifts inside you. You stop seeing misunderstandings as something you must urgently fix. Instead, you begin to see them as part of the natural complexity of human connection. You allow people the space to have their own interpretations without letting those interpretations define your sense of self. That realization brings a deep kind of relief, because it means you don't have to carry the weight of controlling every narrative about you. You only have to remain sincere in the way you live. And sincerity is quiet. It doesn't shout. It doesn't rush. It simply shows up again and again through your actions, through the way you treat others, through the way you remain grounded even when situations become emotional. There's a certain grace in that kind of steadiness. It's not dramatic. Most people won't even notice the inner discipline it takes to remain calm when someone misunderstands you. But you notice it. You feel the difference inside your own body. Where there used to be tension, there is now more space. Where there used to be urgency, there is now patience. Where there used to be the need to defend yourself immediately, there is now a quiet confidence that who you are does not need constant explanation. And that confidence is not arrogance. It's simply self-trust. Trust that your character is revealed through time, not through one conversation. Trust that the people who truly see you will notice the consistency in how you live. Trust that your peace is more valuable than winning every moment of misunderstanding. This kind of trust changes your relationship with conflict. You no longer feel pulled into every disagreement. You can listen without immediately preparing a defense. You can hear someone's frustration without feeling like your entire identity is under attack. And sometimes you can even allow someone to hold a mistaken perception of you without rushing to correct it, not because the truth doesn't matter, but because you understand something deeper. The truth of who you are is not fragile. It doesn't break just because someone fails to see it. And once that understanding settles into your heart, life becomes lighter. You stop walking through the world as if every moment is a test you must pass. You stop measuring your worth through how perfectly others interpret you. Instead, you simply continue living with integrity, quietly, consistently, without needing constant acknowledgement. And over time, something beautiful happens. Your inner world becomes more peaceful than it has ever been before. Not because life stopped being complex, not because people suddenly stopped misunderstanding things, but because you no longer feel the need to fight every moment that feels uncomfortable. You've learned how to stand calmly inside your own truth, and from that calm place, you can finally see something clearly. You were never meant to spend your life proving your heart to everyone. You were simply meant to live from it, not perform it, not defend it endlessly, just live from it, quietly, honestly, day by day. For a long time you thought the world required constant explanation, that if you didn't clarify every intention, someone somewhere would misunderstand who you are. And when that happened, it used to sit heavily on your mind. You would replay moments, conversations, expressions, wondering how something so simple could be seen so differently by someone else. But lately, something softer has been happening within you. You're realizing that being misunderstood is not always a problem to solve. Sometimes it's simply a reflection of how different human perspectives can be. Every person carries their own experiences, their own fears, their own memories of being hurt or disappointed. And often, without realizing it, they see the present moment through those past experiences. So when someone reacts strongly, it isn't always because of you. Sometimes it's because of something much older that they are still carrying. And when you start to see that clearly, something changes in the way you hold those moments. Instead of immediately feeling responsible for correcting everything, you begin to breathe through the moment. You allow space, not as avoidance, but as understanding. Because true emotional regulation isn't about suppressing your feelings. It's about allowing them to exist without letting them control every response you make. You feel the moment, but you don't become the moment. You notice the tension, but you don't rush to match it. And slowly, this way of being begins to reshape your inner world. Where there once was constant alertness, a feeling that you had to stay emotionally prepared for the next misunderstanding, there is now something steadier. You're learning that calm is not something you wait for the world to give you. It's something you create within yourself. And the more you return to that calm place inside, the less power outside reactions seem to have over you. That doesn't mean you stop caring about people. In many ways, your compassion deepens. Because when you're not reacting defensively, you can actually listen more openly. You can see when someone is speaking from hurt rather than truth. You can recognize when someone's frustration isn't really about you at all. And instead of absorbing it, you simply witness it with quiet awareness. This is the kind of maturity that often goes unnoticed. It's not dramatic. It's not something people praise loudly. But it is deeply transformative. Because when you reach this level of inner steadiness, life becomes less exhausting. You're no longer constantly bracing yourself for emotional impact. You're no longer carrying every comment, every reaction, every misunderstanding into the quiet moments of your day. Instead, you allow things to pass through your experience, without holding on to them longer than they need to stay. You're learning that peace is not something fragile. Peace becomes stable when it comes from within you, when it's rooted in self-understanding rather than external approval. And with that stability comes a new kind of freedom. You feel less pressure to prove that you're kind, less pressure to prove that your intentions are sincere, less pressure to make sure everyone sees the full depth of your heart. Because deep down, you already know it. You know the way you try to treat people with respect. You know the care you bring into your interactions. You know the effort you make to live with honesty and empathy. And that quiet knowing becomes enough. You no longer feel the need to convince the entire world of it. Some people will see it clearly. Some people will take time to understand it. And some people may never fully see it at all. But your peace no longer depends on that outcome. You simply continue walking your path with calmness, responding thoughtfully instead of reacting quickly, listening more than defending, observing more than absorbing. And the deeper you settle into this way of being, the more something inside you relaxes. The part of you that once felt responsible for managing everyone's perception finally begins to rest. You realize that your energy is precious. Your attention is precious. Your emotional presence is something that deserves care. So you become more intentional with where you place it. Not in a guarded way, just in a wise way. You give your presence to moments that deserve it, to conversations that hold sincerity, to people who are willing to meet you with the same openness you offer them. And the rest you allow to pass gently through your life, without bitterness, without resentment, just with the understanding that not every connection is meant to carry equal weight. And somewhere in the quiet of this understanding, something beautiful settles into your heart. A feeling that you no longer have to struggle to be yourself. That who you are is already enough without constant explanation. That your calm presence, your thoughtful responses, your quiet resilience are all expressions of a deeper strength that doesn't need to be announced. It simply exists. Steady, grounded, unshaken by every passing storm. And the more you allow yourself to live from that place, the more natural it becomes to move through life with a gentle certainty. A certainty that doesn't demand to be seen. A certainty that doesn't argue for its place. Just a quiet awareness that the peace you spent so many years searching for in the outside world has slowly, patiently been growing inside you all along. And when you begin to recognize that, something inside you softens even more. You stop searching so urgently for the next moment that will finally make everything feel settled. You stop believing that peace is something waiting for you somewhere in the future. Instead, you start noticing it in the quiet spaces that already exist in your life. In the way you breathe more slowly now. In the way your mind doesn't chase every thought the way it used to. In the way certain situations that once overwhelmed you now pass by with much less weight. These changes may seem small from the outside, but inside they are profound. because they mean that your center is no longer easily shaken. You're learning to live from a place where your emotional balance does not depend on perfect circumstances, where your calm does not disappear the moment someone questions you or misunderstands you. Your calm has become something deeper than that. It has become a way of being, and from that place you begin to see life with gentler eyes. You see that everyone is learning in their own time. Everyone is carrying something unseen. Everyone is moving through their own process of understanding themselves and the world around them, including you. So there is less judgment now, less urgency to correct, less need to hold tightly to every moment that once would have stirred something heavy inside your heart. Instead, there is patience with others, but also patience with yourself, because you understand that this quiet resilience you're building did not appear all at once. It formed slowly, through moments where you chose calm even when reaction would have been easier, through moments where you let silence hold space instead of filling it with defense, through moments where you trusted your inner stability more than the noise around you. And those moments have shaped you. They have given you something that cannot easily be taken away: a steady heart, a grounded presence, a quiet confidence that does not need to be announced to be real. So if you feel this change happening inside you, this growing ability to pause, to breathe, to remain centered, even when the world becomes emotional, understand that nothing about it is accidental. It is simply the natural unfolding of someone who has spent enough time learning, observing, and choosing peace again and again. And the beautiful part is, the more you live this way, the more natural it becomes. You don't have to force calm. You don't have to remind yourself constantly to stay balanced. You simply return to the quiet place within you, where understanding lives, where patience lives, where your heart no longer feels the need to fight every passing storm. And in that quiet place, something becomes clear. You were never meant to carry the weight of every misunderstanding. You were never meant to explain your heart to every voice that questioned it. You were only meant to keep walking forward with sincerity, with steadiness, with the quiet strength of someone who finally understands that the deepest kind of peace is not something you prove to the world. It's something you gently protect within yourself. And if something in this message felt quietly familiar to your heart, you're always welcome to stay connected by subscribing to Born into Light. If the reflection brought you a little clarity or calm today, you can also leave a gentle like to support the message reaching others who may need it too.